Number 10. C130 Hercules warplane. In 2017, Lockheed's C130 Hercules cargo aircraft was deliberately sunk off the coast of Abaca, Jordan. But why? Well, for the fish. It's hoped the plane will become colonized by marine life and develop as an artificial reef. It rests in calm, clear waters 59 feet below the waves, with its tail nearly touching the water's surface. The Royal Jordanian Air Force donated the decommissioned C-130 to the Abaca Special Economic Zone Authority, which oversees tourism in the region. After removing all dangerous materials, they lowered the 112-foot-long plane to the bottom of the Red Sea as a crowd gathered on shore to watch. Sadly, less than a year later, someone sabotaged the aircraft by riding on the side of it and damaging the interior. Hooligans. Conservationists were outraged by the act, which scraped off a layer of sediment that accumulated as part of the process of transforming into a reef. These habitats take a long time to form, and the vandalism set the waiting period back to square one. Speaking with the Jordan Times, Director General of the Royal Marine Conservation Society of Jordan, Ihab Aid, demanded better monitoring from the agency in charge of supervising the site. According to Commissioner of Tourism and Economic Affairs, Sharhabil Mahdi, the entire marine ecosystem benefits from creating an artificial reef, like the C-130 Hercules. Whenever we are able to add a new structure like this, the whole area benefits from the added habitat and species diversity. Known for its ability to carry soldiers and cargo over long distances, the C-130 is one of the most popular planes of its time among militaries worldwide, according to Quartz correspondent Eric Olson. Since the 1950s, armed forces in over 70 countries have used C-130s. It's just so cool that so many amazing uses have come from one aircraft. Number 9. Boeing 737. Submerged vehicles are popular among wreck diving enthusiasts and often come with the added environmental benefits. In 2006, the non-profit Artificial Reef Society of British Columbia sank the frame of a retired Boeing 737 off Vancouver Island. The 97-foot-long aircraft sits 85 feet below the water's surface. Before it became a diving attraction, the plane flew for Air Canada. It was built during the 1970s and saw a lengthy 27-year career as a passenger jet. When the 737 was slated to be decommissioned in 2002, a specialist for the company named Fraser McLean called the ARSPC and asked if the organization was interested in using it as an artificial reef. He remembered news footage from when the group sank a ship for the same purpose and thought the aircraft might come in handy. Good call, McLean. Choosing a site and getting the plane there was not exactly an easy task. In fact, if the ARSPC knew how complicated the ordeal would be, it might have turned the offer down. According to its website, the journey to the 737's final resting place involved transporting it by truck, mounting it on support stands, and lowering it to the bottom of the Georgia Strait. But the massive undertaking paid off. According to a 2015 report, at least 117 marine species have made the sunken plane their home. Number 8. DDay tanks. On June 6, 1944, 156,000 Allied troops stormed the coast of Normandy, France, in a mission to free France from Nazi control, famously known as D-Day. It was the largest seaborne invasion in history. The campaign was extremely successful, marking the beginning of the end of the war. But not everything went according to plan. That morning, a fleet of 29 amphibious tanks launched from Allied ships roughly 2.5 miles from shore. Known as duplex drive tanks, or DD Shermans, the modified tanks were outfitted with flotation devices that enabled them to bob, but they were only designed to withstand swells of up to 1 foot, and those in command had failed to think about the rough seas. The vehicles encountered 6-foot waves that they were not built to handle. The drivers did their best to reach dry land, and some came within 0.6 miles of the beach, but only 2 of the tanks actually made it. In 2000, a group of archaeologists explored the area's waters for the first time and found the submerged machines. They captured footage of the doomed vehicles sitting upright and on their side of the ocean floor, serving as an eerie yet emotional reminder of the lengths that soldiers go to for their country. Number 7. Train wreck. While traveling along a steep cliff next to Lake Superior in 1910, a Canadian Pacific Railroad cargo train derailed, meaning it went off its tracks. Its locomotive and several boxcars plunged into the water and sank 235 feet. 3 men tragically died in the accident. To this day, It's the only known train wreck in the Great Lakes. Over a century later in 2014, a diver named Terry Irvine found some of the sunken boxcars near the town of Marathon in Ontario. With Irvine's help, a group of shipwreck hunters discovered the locomotive. Using a remotely operated vehicle, they captured creepy footage of the train in its final resting place. The team had hoped to salvage the locomotive, but when they found it, they realized that it was too destroyed to remove from the lake. Have you ever been on a train before? What'd you think? Where'd you go? Tell us about it in the comments below. And if you're liking this video, be sure to hit the thumbs up and subscribe button if you haven't already. Number 6. SS Thistlegorm. The SS Thistlegorm was a British merchant navy ship that was sunk by German bombers during World War II. She went down in the Red Sea the year after she was built, completing only 3 successful voyages. During her short-lived career, the Thistlegorm carried steel rails, aircraft parts, grain, and rum. She traveled to the US, Argentina, and the West Indies. In 1941, the vessel departed Glasgow, Scotland, for Alexandria, Egypt, loaded up with armored vehicles, motorcycles, trucks, ammunition, guns, radio equipment, aircraft and railway parts, and 2 train locomotives. When a crash in the Suez Canal blocked the Thistlegorm from passing through, the ship docked at a safe anchorage off the Egyptian coast. Suspecting the additional Allied troops were sailing into Egypt, the Germans dispatched 2 bombers to find and destroy their vessel. The Thistlegorm was hit by both, causing some of the ammunition cargo to explode. 9 people aboard the ship died, and she sank to her watery grave. French explorer Jacques Cousteau discovered the wreck during the 1950s, but it was quickly forgotten. In the early 1990s, the coastal city of Sharm el-Sheikh opened the site to divers. The section that was blown off the 420-foot-long ship during the attack created a convenient opening that visitors can use for easy access to the inside, which still contains most of the cargo. Many divers consider the Thistlegorm to be the world's best wrecked dive. At a depth of around 100 feet, it requires some advanced diving skills, but is shallow enough for visitors to forego special equipment. Number 5. Boeing 747 Jumbo Jet. The Boeing 747 was the world's first jumbo jet. During the 1960s, Boeing sought to make flying more affordable and relieve airport congestion. The best way to do this was to design an aircraft with a much larger carrying capacity than anything that existed at the time. At 231 feet long, with a 195-foot wingspan, the 747 was the world's largest passenger jet for over 30 years. The double-decker airplane remains iconic today for its massive size and the distinctive hump housing its upper level. The 747 is becoming less popular as a commercial airliner, but the country of Bahrain found a creative new use for the gargantuan plane. In 2019, the government sank a 747 into the Persian Gulf as a diving attraction, an artificial reef called Dive Bahrain. It's the world's largest underwater theme park. The decommissioned plane functions as the park's centerpiece and is the largest aircraft ever submerged, according to Tourism Minister Zayed bin Rashid Al Zayani. He reassured the public that the site is eco-friendly and promotes marine growth as many of the world's natural reefs die out. But some experts warn that the plane could corrode and lose its structural integrity, potentially putting aquatic life and divers' safety at risk. This could also release heavy metals and pollute the water, but developers moved forward with their plans, and the site is currently open to qualified divers. Number 4. A military museum. In 2019, Jordanian authorities lowered 19 decommissioned military vehicles into the Red Sea in hopes of attracting tourists to the nearby resort city of Aqaba. The collection of drowned hardware includes tanks, an ambulance, a military crane, a troop carrier, a combat helicopter, an anti-aircraft battery, and several guns. They're arranged in a tactical formation along a coral reef 92 feet underwater. The project was the brainchild of the Aqaba Special Economic Zone Authority, which has turned to wreck diving in recent years as a way to draw visitors and their money. In fact, most of the wrecks around Aqaba were sunk completely on purpose. The tradition of deliberately submerging vehicles also stems from the Jordanian royal family's passion for diving, which goes back generations. In 1985, the late King Abdallah ordered the sinking of a Spanish cargo vessel called the Cedar Pride. 3 years earlier, an accident had blasted a hole in the ship, leaving a half-submerged eyesore until the king decided it belonged on the sea bottom. An anti-aircraft tank became the second intentionally placed wreck off Aqaba in 1999. There are also a few sunken airplanes, a landing boat, and a crane barge. So if exploring waterlogged vehicles is your thing, Aqaba might be your type of place. Are you going? Number 3. Hilma Hooker. In 1984, a freighter ship called the Hilma Hooker began experiencing engine problems in the Caribbean Sea. Unaware that they were being watched by law enforcement, the crew had it towed to the port city of Croatias on the island of Bonaire. When the Hilma Hooker's captain failed to provide authorities with the proper registration documents, they inspected the ship and found a false bulkhead filled with 25,000 pounds of marijuana. Whoa! The suspects were detained, but the vessel's owner was never identified. Whoever it was, they were smart enough not to come forward, and the ship deteriorated as it sat neglected as evidence. The Hilma Hooker began taking on water, worried that it would sink, and tired of continuously pumping water out, the authorities moved the vessel away from the main dock. Hey, out of sight, out of mind, right? Just days later, the 236-foot-long ship rolled onto her side and hit the sea floor. Situated 95 feet underwater on a sand flat between two coral reef systems, the Hilma Hooker is one of the most popular diving sites in the Caribbean. While most of the ship's interior is off-limits to divers, the wreck is a spectacular sight thanks to the water's crystal-clear visibility. Number 2. Ganilda. Built at the turn of the 20th century, the Ganilda was a luxury yacht owned by a wealthy New Yorker named William L. Harkness. While touring Lake Superior in 1911 with family and friends, he failed to hire an experienced guide to navigate the 195-foot-long boat through an area filled with various islands and shoals. It was a disastrous decision that Harkness would come to regret. The Ganilda ran around on Copper Island, roughly 5 miles from the coastal city of Rossport, Ontario. Harkness hired a tugboat to salvage his yacht, but it was too late to save it. After being pulled free, the Ganilda rolled over and sank 280 feet to the bottom of the lake. The wreck was rediscovered in 1967. It's too deep for conventional diving, but a few seasoned pros have been lucky enough to see the perfectly preserved yacht firsthand. It looks more or less just like it did the day it went down, and is filled with remarkably intact artifacts, including furniture, a piano, and some lanterns. The Cousteau Society has described the Ganilda as the most beautiful shipwreck in the world. And number 1. Zenobia Wreck. The Swedish-built ferry MS Zenobia began her maiden voyage to Syria in May 1980 with 104 tractor-trailers of cargo aboard. After passing through the Strait of Gibraltar a few weeks later and stopping in Greece, the captain encountered steering problems. Soon enough, the ship began listing. Excess water was discovered in the ballast tanks. The crew pumped it out and continued towards Cyprus, assuming the problem was solved. By the time the Zenobia reached Larnaca, it had started listing again. Engineers determined that a software malfunction was pumping excess water into the tanks. Worried that the 571-foot-long ferry was a danger to other ships, local authorities ordered the captain to leave the harbor. He anchored offshore, and the list worsened, ultimately forcing the crew to abandon ship. According to witness reports, they returned to the harbor and visited a bar. From there, the crew members calmly watched the Zenobia capsize, taking $200 million worth of cargo down with it and scattering 100 trucks onto the sea floor. It's the largest ship to ever sink in the Mediterranean. Their unfazed behavior was odd, but things got even weirder when no investigation of the incident was carried out. Rumor has it that the ferry's owners never filed an insurance claim, and the cargo was never salvaged. People began to suspect that the Zenobia was sabotaged. One theory claims that Israeli and British Secret Services wrecked it because they thought it was carrying an illegal arms shipment for the Palestinian Liberation Organization. We may not ever know what happened, but the wreck is one of the world's most popular diving sites, attracting over 100,000 curious visitors every year. Number 10. Spongebob and Patrick. A recent ocean expedition about a mile beneath the surface of the Atlantic Ocean made a pretty weird discovery. The expedition found SpongeBob SquarePants and his friend Patrick, who lives in a pineapple under the sea. Okay, maybe they weren't living in a pineapple, and it wasn't technically SpongeBob and Patrick, but they definitely found their doppelgangers. The Okeanos Explorer captured video of a sponge and a sea star sitting right beside each other, with the sponge looking like the yellow cartoon character and the starfish looking like his best friend. One of the scientists watching the live feed from the submersible was Christopher Ma. He's the one that immediately noticed the underwater's creatures' uncanny resemblance to the beloved animated characters, and he tweeted the picture, which of course went viral. But here's where things get sinister. In this case, the sponge and the star were probably not actually friends. Researcher Christopher Ma says the sea stars actually feed on sponges in real life. The reason the starfish was discovered so close to the sponge is probably because the sponge was about to be the sea star's next meal. The reason the sponge was so bright yellow is because it has a chemical defense system that makes it turn yellow to keep the sea star from eating it. We don't know how things turned out because the underwater vehicle had to keep moving, but it's highly likely that Patrick ate SpongeBob for dinner. Number 9. Lake Como treasures. There's a hidden world underneath Lake Como filled with all kinds of incredible treasures. Vintage cars, battle tanks, and even wrecked airplanes. It's one of the most stunning lakes in the world. At 1,394 feet between the Italian Alps and the Swiss Alps. It's also the deepest lake anywhere in all of Italy. Divers have discovered a huge collection of wreckage in this mysterious lake, including unexploded bombs and rusting motorcycles. There's a giant steamship rotting at the bottom of the lake too, a land cruiser, an abandoned gondola, and explorers have even found the tile floor of an ancient church that was submerged in the year 1400. According to underwater biologist Emilio Mancuso, there is a huge drop-off in the lake that used to be used for sinking cars, which is why there's such a huge vintage graveyard in the lake. Some divers believe a lot of them are actually stolen vehicles that people dumped in the water to get rid of the evidence. Number 8. Mayan funerary offerings. At the bottom of a giant sinkhole in Mexico, archaeologists have discovered funerary offerings. The sinkhole is known as a cenote, and this particular cenote was found near the incredible Mayan ruins of Chichen Itza. The funerary offerings consist of human bones, pottery vessels, knives, and jade beads. Experts say the offerings was made sometime around the 9th century as part of a ritual to bring rain during the dry season. The National Institute of Anthropology and History say that the ritual goes back to a time when the Mayan had suffered 2 very serious episodes of drought and were desperate to get water on their crops. To try and facilitate rain, the Mayans went deep into the underwater cave, which of course at the time had not been full of water, sacrificed 6 people, and left behind some treasures to appease the gods. Bada boom, bada bing. We wonder if it rained after that, but here's where things get even darker. Aside from the singular ritual, archaeologists found the human remains of at least 20 other people and 100 animals. This has probably been a very important cave for ritualistic ceremonies in the Maya culture before the cave was eventually flooded. Number 7. World War I submarine. A lost submarine from World War I has recently been discovered at the bottom of the ocean with 23 crew members still on board. The haunting wreckage is that of a German U-boat, and it was found off the coast in Belgium. The submarine sank over 100 years ago during a campaign to disrupt Allied shipping routes. At the time, the submarine was reported to have been sunk by an underwater mine, but its wreckage was never discovered. According to ABC News, the submarine was finally found stuck in the dirt at the bottom of the North Sea, about 98 feet deep. 23 of the crew members were still trapped inside of the vessel, which is a type UB-2 U-boat, a small submarine that operated strictly in coastal waters. The crew was carrying 6 torpedoes. The crew is still sealed inside the submarine. Their bodies likely skeletons by now. Well, actually their bodies are definitely skeletons because it's been over a century. Number 6. Egyptian treasure. Marine researchers working off the northern coast of Egypt have recently made a few very unique discoveries involving some extremely rare treasures. A mission in 2021 conducted by a group of researchers from the European Institute of Underwater Archaeology discovered ancient Greek ceramics, as well as 2,400-year-old wicker baskets with fruit. But these were only the most recent discoveries in an underwater archaeological paradise. Before Alexander the Great founded his city of Alexandria in 331 BC, the largest port anywhere in the Mediterranean was a city called Thonis Heracleion. Today, the city is completely underwater in the Bay of Aboukir, with all of the artifacts being untouched in over 2,000 years. An earthquake devastated the city, and then it was literally sucked into the ocean. by the succeeding tidal waves. A massive portion of the Nile Delta collapsed and fell into the sea. 2 cities were destroyed, Canopus and Thonis Heracleon, with the first being found in 1999 and the second a year later in 2000. Another significant discovery made by the team was the remains of a large tumulus, a Greek funerary area, along the northeast entrance canal of the submerged city. The tumulus was covered with elegant funerary offerings that dated back to the beginning of the 4th century BCE. While the ceramics and ancient fruit baskets are definitely amazing, there is a lot more down in the sunken city, from temple ruins to broken shipwrecks. Number 5. The Titanic. The wreckage of the Titanic was found on September 1st, 1985, but until just recently, the oceanographer who discovered the wrecked ocean liner, Robert Ballard, has kept the reason why it was found at all a secret. It's now been revealed that the Titanic was actually found because of a secret military operation. At the time, the United States Navy was investigating 2 wrecked nuclear submarines. The search for the Titanic was just a cover story for a secret Cold War mission. The Army desperately wanted to find and photograph its 2 nuclear submarines, but they didn't want the Russians to know what they were up to. So, because it was believed that the legendary Titanic was close to the 2 sunken subs, they used that as their excuse for snooping around in the deep ocean. Amazingly, the nuclear submarines were found, and with the leftover time, only 12 days, Robert was finally allowed to search for the Titanic. It only took him 9 days to find it. The rest is history, as the Titanic was immortalized 10 years later by James Cameron in his movie about the tragic sinking. Number 4. The Morocco Underwater Hotel. A few years ago, the world's very first underwater hotel suite opened, and it's nothing short of extraordinary. It's called the Morocco, and it was the first self-contained building to be completely submerged under the ocean. The beautiful villa is 2 stories tall and includes a master suite located approximately 16 feet beneath the surface of the ocean. The luxury hotel is encased within acrylic and offers unparalleled views of the wild marine environment. It's basically like diving in a glass-walled hotel room, but you don't even need to get wet. This experience is available only in the Maldives, and only for a small fortune. But still, the very fact that we as humans are now able to build self-sustainable houses underwater is pretty incredible. The hotel suite is more of a residence than a typical hotel room. It has bedrooms, a dining room, and an ocean level at the top with a swimming pool, in case you're tired of actually being under the water. You can just walk up the stairs and then swim in the pool while looking at the ocean, hugging you close. Plus, the surroundings have been kept as natural as possible, meaning you have full and uninterrupted views of the sea life. The building itself was constructed in Singapore and then transported to the Maldives and submerged. The room weighs about 600 tons and can be lifted and repositioned using a crane attached to a ship. Would you like to spend the night here? Let us know in the comments down below. Number 3. Alien Base. Something very strange has been spotted, thanks to good old Google Earth and a user with eagle eyes. First of all, vlogger Brian Daniel recently unveiled satellite images of what appears to be an alien body washed up on the beach, with the beach having been evacuated and a small group of government officials standing around the alien body, looking as though they have no idea what to do with the thing. And as if an alien body wasn't creepy enough, Brian then tried to find where it had come from. Still using Google Maps, he managed to locate what appears to be an alien base off the coast of Greece, hidden underwater. But looking very carefully, one can see the obvious shape of a man-made structure, or maybe in this case, an alien-made structure. The ocean facility, according to Brian and other conspiracy theorists, is where UFOs have been hiding themselves while visiting Earth. It's very possible that the alien body also spotted in satellite images could have come from the underwater base and accidentally drowned in the Mediterranean Sea before being washed up on the beach. Keep in mind that there is no official evidence for any of these theories other than the satellite images. But you never know. This could just be the real deal. What if it is? Number 2. Blood red jellyfish. A mysterious underwater monster was recently spotted by researchers during a deep ocean adventure in the North Atlantic. The creature was found 2,300 feet under the surface. According to the National Oceanic and Atmospheric Administration, it could be a previously unidentified jellyfish. The creature was discovered with its body crimson red, as if literally formed out of nothing except liquid blood. It has 30 tentacles, a body shaped like a bell, and it lives at depths of up to 3,000 feet deep in the Atlantic Ocean. Nobody knows how many of these jellyfish live in the ocean, or what its characteristics are, only that it's blood red and slightly terrifying to look at. It's probably been around for millions and millions of years, and has just never been spotted before by any humans. Jellyfish have been around way before even dinosaurs walked the earth. They move by drifting on ocean currents and pulsing their bodies. And yes, they sting you with their tentacles. It's unknown whether the jellyfish is poisonous, but judging by the looks of it, it's highly likely that it is. And number 1. Roman ruins. For decades, fishermen off the coast of Naples were pulling up weird ancient artifacts in their fishing nets. As it turns out, these artifacts were from the ancient Roman city of Baiae, a kind of holiday resort for the high tier of Roman society. At least 7 emperors, including the notorious Nero and Julius Caesar, had villas here. The city was once described by the Roman poet Sextus Propertius as being a place of vice. In other words, it was a place where emperors and their friends went to party. It was basically the Roman equivalent of Epstein's Island. Today, the city is under 20 feet of water. It sank because of seismic activity that gradually pulled the whole entire area into the water. By the 4th century AD, the city had completely sunk. It's been a protected marine area ever since archaeologists realized what it was back in 2002, but it's hardly been explored. Some of the bigger ruins have been found because they stick so obviously out of the sand, but expert archaeologists say there could be thousands of more amazing artifacts and broken structures hidden deeper. There's a whole lost world down here in the murk, but archaeologists are having a tough time recovering the precious Roman relics.
Number 10. California plane wreckage. A mysterious plane wreck may have just been discovered in Folsom Lake, California. This chilling discovery was made thanks to an underwater drone using new sonar mapping technology. The find was a total accident, with researchers shocked when they saw the shape of something that most certainly resembles an airplane at the very bottom of the lake. They believe this could be the wreckage of a 4-seater plane that crashed back in 1965 and was never recovered. The plane that crashed was a Piper Comanche 250, and it happened on New Year's Day when the aircraft smashed head-on with another aircraft. The pilot's body was recovered soon after, but the search crews never could find the plane or the 3 passengers who were on board at the time of the incident. They were assumed dead and gone. 50 years later, in 2014, search efforts were renewed to try and give the victims' families a bit of closure, but 3 full days of searching revealed nothing. It wasn't until a survey company was trying to map the depth and shape of the seafloor that they accidentally found what they believed to be the 1965 crash site. It's definitely a plane, it's definitely at the bottom of a lake, but researchers are still figuring out how in the world they're going to bring the plane back up to the surface. Number 9. Shape-shifting fish. Scientists recently spotted one of the most mysterious and elusive animals anywhere in the deep sea. It's a fish that literally shapeshifts, and it was spotted thanks to scientists piloting a remotely operated submarine. The shape-shifting fish is known scientifically as a whalefish, and it was found swimming nonchalantly at about 66,000 feet, not far from Monterey Bay in California. It was one of the only times that scientists have ever seen this creature, which baffled the experts for over a century. The shape-shifting fish was first discovered in 1895 by a pair of scientists from the Smithsonian Institution. However, the fish was categorized as a few different animals throughout the next 100 years. The problem is that the fish changes shape dramatically as it moves through its life cycles. Scientists mistook each step of the fish's life cycle as an entirely different animal belonging to a different zoological family. When the fish is born, it's a scaleless larva thing that kind of looks like a tadpole. Then it turns into a fish. But depending on whether it's male or female, it looks very different. Males have scales and big noses, and they never eat even once for the rest of their life. Females, on the other hand, bloat and grow way larger than the males, resembling whales. They also turn bright orange. They look like 2 entirely different animals. Number 8. The Beer Shipwreck. Dive technician and amateur treasure hunter Steve Hickman recently explored a vessel that had been rotting on the bottom of the ocean for over 100 years. His goal was to get some beer. He dove down with a large bag, swam into the broken hold of the ancient vessel, and began filling his bag with preserved glass bottles of beer. There were dozens and even hundreds of them, rows of glass beer bottles mostly buried under sediment. But let's back it up a bit. This mysterious underwater vessel is the wreckage of the Wallachia, a ship that sank in 1895 off the coast of Scotland after it crashed into another vessel because of fog. The Wallachia had just left Glasgow, stocked to the brim with bottles of alcohol to be shipped across the world. All that alcohol ended up at the bottom of the sea, only to be recovered 100 years later. The reason Steve Hickman is so interested in taking the bottles of beer, whiskey, and gin is that he and his colleagues are working to extract live yeast from ancient liquid to recreate the original brew. In other words, he's using the sunken beer bottles to recreate the recipe and once more brew beer that's been lost for centuries. Number 7. Croatia's Blue Cave. The Blue Cave in Croatia is one of the most amazing natural geological phenomena ever discovered in the water. It's remarkable for one reason. The entire cave glows blue as if lit up by thousands of nightlights. And yes, it's entirely natural. The locals have known about the glowing cave for thousands of years, but it was the Austrian explorer Baron Eugene von Razenet-Villiers who first described it after finding the place in 1884 on a diving expedition. An artificial entrance was blasted into the rock so that small boats could enter, carrying with them eager tourists. But other than the entrance, nothing about the cave is man-made at all. It was simply formed by waves crashing into the rock over hundreds of thousands of years. The reason the cave glows blue, while it may seem like magic, is actually thanks to the rays of sunlight hitting the surface of the ocean through an opening in the rock. The light then reflects off the limestone seabed. All these reflections create a brilliant blue, more like turquoise, as if you're standing in a mystic cave about to be greeted by some mermaids. Number 6. The New Atlantis. Atlantis is a myth, a legend invented by the Greek writer Plato sometime around 360 BC. This is 2,300 years ago, with all the details of Atlantis being laid out in a work of fiction. Plato described Atlantis as a utopian civilization founded by a demigod and then cursed by the rest of the gods for becoming too greedy. The gods then sent Atlantis tumbling into the ocean, where it's absolutely never been found because it probably never existed. The good news is that if you find yourself in Dubai sometime soon, you can visit the new city of Atlantis. In an extremely weird move, Dubai has constructed their very own underwater city of Atlantis. Well, it's actually the world's deepest dive pool. It just so happens to be so deep and so enormous that the designers built a mysterious ancient city at the bottom. The city is so big that there are 56 cameras installed so that nobody accidentally gets lost and drowns. Do you think there's an actual lost city of Atlantis out there somewhere? Where do you think it is? Let me know in the comments down below, and be sure to subscribe for more videos like these. And let us know what other abandoned and amazing things you'd like to hear about in the comments below. Number 5. Giant Shark. One of the biggest sharks ever seen by human eyes was just witnessed off the coast of New England. The shark was so big that some believe it could actually be a baby megalodon. The megalodon was the largest shark and fish that has ever lived on our planet, growing to a maximum of between 60 and 80 feet. This newest shark, while definitely massive, was not quite that big. Experts say it was only 26 feet long. And as much as we wish it was proof that megalodons still live among us, it was actually just a basking shark. The basking shark is the second largest shark species in the world. But despite its hulking size, the shark is actually quite friendly. It's nothing like the megalodon, which was the true definition of terror in the sea. Number 4. Eavesdropping dolphins. Scientists have just made a very weird water discovery, this time about dolphins, specifically the rhesus dolphin, a species that can be found near just about every coastline in the world. They have bulging heads, white and gray coloring, and are recognizable all over the globe. They also make a series of strange noises to communicate with one another. To us, these noises sound like clicks and whistles. According to Charlotte Cure, a bioacoustics expert who knows a whole lot about dolphins, the clicks and whistles are used by dolphins to communicate directly with each other. But scientists have figured out that not only do dolphins communicate, they also eavesdrop. This revelation came after 4 years of studying in the field. Researchers parked their boats above where dolphins were playing and then recorded the noises that they picked up from other groups of dolphins. What they found is that dolphins can hear the conversations of other dolphins from quite far away. They then use what they learned eavesdropping to make important decisions. As an example, when the dolphins hear male dolphins in the area, most female dolphins and young dolphins will turn the other way and run. This is because male dolphins are known to harass females and bully other males. Number 3. Underwater Island. A mysterious underwater island shaped like a bean was recently spotted in the Arabian Sea thanks to Google Maps. This is one of the more unusual water discoveries because nobody can figure out where the island came from or if it's even real. There's clearly a giant black spot just off the coast of the city of Kochi in India, but there shouldn't be. There's no artificial or natural structures in the area, and nobody knows of any construction project that's gone on there. Nonetheless, there's a giant bean-shaped island underwater. It's either a malfunction with the Google Earth technology, or there's something mysterious down there that nobody knows about yet. Some say it could be a crashed alien ship slowly rising to the surface, while others say it's just a giant mound of sand. Until somebody actually goes down there and looks, we just won't have any definitive answers. Number 2. Skeletons and a pirate ship. Archaeologists in Cape Cod off the coast of Massachusetts have discovered a group of skeletons inside a vessel that sank in 1717 and killed just about every last person on board. This was the British pirate ship called the Whydah, manned by 146 sailors when it was destroyed. It also had a small hoard of treasure on board. To this day, it's the only authenticated pirate wreckage on the planet. It was captained by James Bellamy, one of the richest pirates in pirate history. The captain, along with everyone except 2 of the members of the crew, went down with the ship after it got stuck in a storm. At the time, the ship was carrying treasure from an estimated 50 other ships that were captured and pillaged by James Bellamy's pirates. The wreckage was originally found in modern times in 1984. Thousands of pieces of treasure were brought up from the wreckage, but it was just recently that a team of underwater divers came across a complete skeleton and fragments of 5 other skeletons. It appears as though when the ship sank, these 6 individuals were crushed by the chunks of timber being ripped apart. Not only did the poor pirates have to drown in a storm, they were also crushed to death by their sinking ship. Not a great way to go. Number 1. Sunken train. A sunken train was found at the bottom of Lake Superior 106 years after it went off the rails, quite literally. The train was discovered near the small town of Schreiber in Ontario, on the Canadian side of the lake. Tom Crossman, an underwater recovery expert, was the one to make the find back in July. He found the full wreckage of the CPR 694 freight train that crashed in June of 1910. The train went off the rails because it hit a boulder that was lying on the track. It was one of the most violent derailments of all time, with the train plummeting over 60 feet into the lake, then slipping another 180 feet to the bottom. 3 men were killed in the wreckage, and only one of their bodies was ever recovered. Unfortunately, the train is way too deep and way too heavy for it to ever be pulled out of the lake. Tom Crossman used a remotely operated vehicle to find and document the sunken wreckage. If anything, the locomotive's bell and whistle might be recovered and then donated to a local museum. But if not, this ancient piece of history will probably remain at the bottom of the lake for another 106 years. What's the strangest thing you've ever found in the water? Let me know in the comments, and thanks so much for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit subscribe and come back soon for another awesome video right here on American Eye.